Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It's the 48 Laws of Power discussion series. This is a book by Robert Greene, and I am your host. And most inadequately prepared guide, Darthidius. That's me. Good to see everybody here, and by everybody, I mean in attempting to hide small mousin, and then also Heidi. Oh, hi Heidi, hi Mousin. Hello everybody else out there. Bijou, good to see you. So where do I begin with this one tonight? I gotta tell y'all, sometimes I'm grateful for the days that I don't have time to go through the whole thing before we start, because then I don't know what's coming. Tonight's not one of those nights. And tonight's a very, very interesting conversation. Based on what the topic of tonight's law, number 27, actually is, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. And I immediately recoiled from this exact statement based on the nature of this exact statement. However, it really was easy for me to have to rethink that immediately based on the nature of my audience. Because sometimes it doesn't take a religious figure to form a cult-like following. And what is a cult-like following other than a following of the most significant loyalty? It is Mousy's goal to start a cult. She pretends she worries about it, but I see through that mask. Well, maybe Mousy doesn't start a cult. Maybe Mousy gets to inherit one. Maybe I'll start it for her. Maybe we'll start it tonight. Who knows? But how do you play on people's beliefs to create that cult-like following? How do you get people to actually go along with the shit you're actually talking about? Well, first of all, roll up, puff, pass, believe, and join the Sith Eternal. See? You have to believe. You have to drug them until they believe in you, mostly. The Church of the Small Mousen or the Church of the Stinging Bee, because these are two separate denominations, even though they seem to be related. So anyway, y'all, tonight's law is probably going to be the longest running one yet. It's almost as long as the one we did Monday. which ended up being like by 10 seconds longer than the longest one we'd done before that. I've got a whole shitload more to say about this one. Mostly because I live in a world of more and more divisive, more and more cult-like followings. And if I really want my cult-like following to be aware of anything, it would definitely be the cult-like nature of every other following. Because the reason I don't have a large cult-like following is because I have a very high-functioning, high-thinking cult-like following, which doesn't tend to prescribe to what everybody else is into. Literally, the 48 Laws of Power series is the least popular thing I've ever done as far as my analytics go. But when it comes to audience feedback and what people actually were like, hey, I really want you to keep doing this. This was the one thing that the people who really gave a shit about what I was doing out here were like, hey, could you come back and do this some more, please? That really, really inspired me. Mm-hmm. Really inspired me to keep it going. Matthew, I have some of the most independent thinking people in the whole community that follow me on a regular basis. You would know. Uh, you really would. You really should know. And if you don't know, you's gonna learn tonight. Welcome to the mix, Mr. Matthew. Okay, y'all. I have gabbed long enough, and I could sit here and hang out with y'all forever. However, we have a lot to talk about tonight. I have a lot to talk about. Hopefully, everybody else has some thoughts on the topic because this one's probably one of the most important ones I've come across yet. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Judgment. People have an overwhelming desire to believe in something. Become the focal point of such desire by offering them a cause, a new faith to follow. I'm sorry, I gotta stop the judgment right now. Like, if anyone's gonna like ask where I'm leading them, I'm gonna tell you I follow Jesus. So if you're following me, like, I'm already the worst cult leader because I'm just following Jesus. So sorry to disappoint you already. Like, tune out from here on out. But anyway, I'm gonna seek to understand everything else from here on out. This is not a new faith, though. This is, I mean, there's other shit to what I believe, but keep your words vague but full of promise. Emphasize enthusiasm over rationality and clear thinking. See, this is why I don't actually get to have a cult following. Give your new disciples rituals to perform, like smashing the like button. or sharing this on your social media or doing something to help me offset the fact that I'm breaking the living shit out of this law. Ask them to make sacrifices on your behalf. Fuck off, I just did. In the absence of organized religion and grand causes, your new belief system will bring you untold power. Well, shit. It looks like I've already failed miserably right out of the gate. And this is why, when it comes to power, it's good that there's not one single road that gets us there. Because if we were all doomed to one fate, we would all be doomed in general. The science of charlatanism, or how to create a cult in 5 easy steps. Well, thank fucking goodness. Oh, au contraire, little Bijou. I have just rediscovered my entire enthusiasm because this motherfucker wrote us an entire handbook on how to create a cult in 5 easy steps. So we're just gonna get there. We are just gonna get Mousy. Keep your ears wide open. In fact, I should probably go ahead and send Small Mouse a StreamYard link. Disrupt her entire concept of having a show tonight, and teach her how to create a cult with me. Oh, oh, see, it's just that easy. Hello, Claire. Welcome. I am glad you're here. This is going to be a absolutely the longest one. This is going to be the funnest one I've done yet so far, though, because I have so much to say, and I don't have Alex Jones or Joe Rogan or Mr. Beast here with me to go ahead and give me insight on how they created their cult followings. So I just have to wing it with my tiny little following of 150, 100, 200 people. I've got about exactly 10% of my audience watching right now. I mean, that's pretty good. As far as a content creator goes, like, if you can get like 5 to 10% of your audience to come and watch when you do a show, that's pretty great. In your mers. Number one, claim to be a servant of the people. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the order is, Rob. Like, but I'm glad you have a prediction on what the number one is. I feel like that is going to fit into this. I have to go get crap ready for tomorrow. Well, hopefully you stay listening so I can maintain this steady input on my cult-like following. The elitist of my followers, you mean this one, and hold on, that one? Do you mean this one who is also hyper loyal? This one who is a true homie? I mean, all my followers are the most elitist of my followers. It's really like, could I pick who my elite followers are? Hell, the fuck ass no. You are all absolutely amazing in your own rights, and every single one of you rocks with me pretty fucking hard. I'm sorry, this stream is gonna go on and on and on forever. I know I'm a little bit early on the draw, but I've got to smoke for this one. It's so hot. Smoke. I mean, like I said, every single name I see here now are names I see on a very regular basis. Castro in the mix. The following is all here. Like, honestly, you know who I really wanted? Like, while I was going over this a little bit ago, I was just like, man, if I could just get Joe Neerman, good logic for all of you who don't know, and most of you should know, but it would be a funny joke because this chapter is about creating a cult-like following, and his YouTube membership program is called The Following. I'm not saying they're a cult, but if you don't know about Joe and The Following, uh, those were the days. But anyway, let's learn the science of charlatanism because I'm really interested in creating. Yeah, it's funny. You just brought the fact that my man's was a good thought point in my head to my mind. So yeah, Joe Joe Neerman, the Jew. In searching, as you must, for the methods that will gain you the most power for the least effort, you will find the creation of a cult-like following one of the most effective. Having a large following opens up all sorts of possibilities for deception. Not only will your followers worship you, they will defend you from your enemies and will voluntarily take on the work of enticing others to join your fledgling cult. You hear that, y'all? I don't even ask you to worship me. Please, in fact, don't. But definitely bring others, entice them to join this fledgling cult. Like, I promise you, I have nothing to offer other than the truth. No, he said on Rumble, Heidi, and he is Jacob Castro on Rumble. Just saying. Oh, look, now we're right on time. Cult of the Smoke and talk about it. So, what I need my cult following to do is definitely bring other people to join this cult. Like, it's really easy. The share button's right down there next to all the other buttons. Just go ahead and send it to somebody on Discord, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever weird platforms you use that I don't know of because I don't use any of those other weird platforms. Go ahead and get a friend to come along. Join the fledgling cult. This kind of power will lift you to another realm. You will no longer have to struggle or use subterfuge to enforce your will. You are adored and can do no wrong. Oh, well, that seems nice. You might think it a gargantuan task to create such a following. In fact, it fucking is. But in fact, it is fairly simple. Of course it is. However, you have to be willing to do some reprehensible shit. As humans, we have a desperate need to believe in something, anything. This makes us eminently gullible. That's unfortunate. That's not the kind of people I want in my following. We simply cannot endure long periods of doubt or of the emptiness that comes from a lack of something to believe in. Dangle in front of us some new cause, elixir, get rich quick scheme, or the latest technological trend or art movement, and we leap from the water as one to take the bait. Look at history. The chronicles of the new trends and cults that have made a mass following for themselves could fill a library. After a few centuries, a few decades, a few years, a few months, they generally look ridiculous. But at the time, they seem so attractive, so transcendental, so divine. Always in a rush to believe in something, we will manufacture saints and faiths out of nothing. Do not let this gullibility go to waste. Make yourself the object of worship. Make people form a cult around you. And this tends to be a uh, this is one I tend to just absolutely lash out back against. Puppies and kittens. The support of cute young animals attract nearly everyone on Earth. Oh, first shot, what's up, my dude? Glad to see you not dead with clothes on. That's an inside joke between me and first shot. Levy, holy my dude, it has been quite some time since you've been able to make a live. I'm glad to see you, my guy. Like, glad you're here, my friend. Look how Darth Look how quickly Darth switched from "I'm not your leader, look somewhere else" to "These are not the people I want in my following or cult." Uh, Not what I said. That is not what I said at all. I'm I'm a terrible cult leader because I need to inspire like emotion and loyalty in people, and I actually inspire people to notice shit about me like this. It's not very helpful at all. I'm only dead and naked on an occasional basis. Oh, hi. Not dead with clothes on. Uh, Inside jokes, if you know, you know. Speaking of cults, all hail Libby for showing up. Well, I mean, there's a cult, and there are dues to the cult, and you have to pay them, or the cult, they kill you, but in this cult, we don't kill people. We just, like, vote him off the island ish. If I weren't a Fed, I'd be doing the bong rips also. Well, because you are a Fed, I'll do the bong rips for you because it's legal here. Oh, Maddie has a radio show? Like, why don't I even have links to this? Uh, that's that's how you inspire loyalty is you be a good friend to everybody. Aw, message for your div. Heidi misses you. But she's catching up though. Her aim's getting better. uh, all right. Damn. Yeah, this is what I said. Like, how do you create a following and you don't even tell the people? Oh yeah, no. uh, okay, just for the fucking record, I got kicked out of Rumble yesterday while I was trying to watch Divinity stream. If anybody sees Nova, tell them to shut the fuck up. Dear God. Mentioned my name way too goddamn many times on stream for my liking or likelihood. Damn you, Rumble, and you're not notifying notification. I mean, they're Rumble's rapidly becoming just as useless as YouTube. Anyway, I have a whole damn chapter to get through. I can't get caught up in chat this hard. Pardon me for wanting to be among the following, especially when the following is it's got people I wouldn't normally expect to see in it. He's not even a human being. But yes, Canadian. It's terrible. Trust me. Like, I don't want to get into it because he's not here. And thank you, Bijou, for being a most helpful member of the following focus. We don't want to be here all night, and we will be. The great European charlatans of the 16th and 17th centuries mastered the art of cult making. They lived, as we do now, in a time of transformation. Organized religion was on the wane. Science was on the rise. Does this sound familiar to anybody? People were desperate to rally around a new cause or faith. The charlatans began by peddling health elixirs and alchemic shortcuts to wealth. Moving quickly from town to town, they originally focused on small groups until, by accident, they stumbled on a truth of human nature. The larger the group they gathered around themselves, the easier it was to deceive. This right here was the first thing that slapped me right in the mouth when I was reading this earlier. And I had to actually stop and think about this fucking fact because I have a very small group around me. My group, as I have come to know them, are all mostly here sharing the same trait, that they're very difficult to deceive. Regardless of how they feel about things, it's a hard group to lie to. And then I got to thinking about much, much larger followings, and mostly, I'm not even going to lie, because I don't spend a whole lot of time shitting on this particular group of people, but lately it seems to me that the people who follow the former president, the Mr. Donald J. Trump, seem to be losing their minds. And I don't want to actually say that without explaining a whole or providing a whole bunch of evidence, but I am on Twix. I follow a lot of people. I don't know if this is a psyop and it's a bunch of bots, but it seems like there's just a rampant. Hey, do shout out to Divinity's cult, and she anyone she can get to tolerate Nova is definitely worshiping something. But no, the truth of this, the bigger your following gets, the easier it is to spread bullshit among them, provided you've got a semi-valid source. And that makes the whole situation a lot more delicate. My cult is a non-monetized collection of baby bird lovers. No dues or even meetings. That doesn't sound like a very effective cult. Sounds like a just like baby birds and you can be a part of Squab's cult. The cult leader herself, the much fine divinity said, with a also small cult following, loyal viewership. The charlatan would station himself high on a wooden platform, hence the term, I don't even know this term, mountebank, and crowds would swarm around him. I feel like there's probably a translation to this term. I feel like there was a translation to this term in my head somewhere. In a group setting, people were more emotional, less able to reason, and anyone who's ever seen group panic videos or heard of the concept of just a stampede, and this has happened with people as easily as it has with large herds of animals. Like that's what they mean by this, is just this more emotional, less ability to reason. Had the charlatan spoke to them individually, they might have found him ridiculous, and a lot of them would. But lost in a crowd, they got caught up in a communal mood of rapt attention. It became impossible for them to find the distance to be skeptical. Any deficiencies in the charlatan's ideas were hidden by the zeal of the mass. Passion and enthusiasm swept through the crowd like a contagion, and they reacted violently to anyone who dared spread a seed of doubt. And this is how these groups maintain themselves. And you act like And people don't seem to understand, like, how could all these people buy in? It's it's a lot like that. I am sorry I'm late. I was being a bad friend until a good friend first shot reminded me to be a good friend. Long story short, I this is why we love first shot. This one's a whole hell of a lot. Div, I don't know if you're actually paying attention to chat, but Heidi does have a question for you. I'm pretty sure it's 9 Eastern time last time I checked, which is 6 o'clock in commie time. You're welcome, Div. Anyone who doesn't follow Div's cult, I mean, I ain't got Mr. Beast here, but I got little Miss Beast coming up over here, studying at the school of Mr. Beast and creating quite the following, I must say. She's got something going down on Rumble. Uh, I don't have a link offhand. I can get it in. Son of a bitch. I'm gonna put you back in the knitting club. You're gonna have to go ahead and post your link. Your damn self. I need all the cults to be promoted. No, we're building cults. Shut up. Don't call this Kabi time. That's not how any of this shit works. Div, please put channel link for all people to come join you for show tomorrow. I mean, you don't even gotta make tomorrow's link. You can just make your channel link happen, and people can put the damn notifications on like good little followers, and we can all be there tomorrow night. Lord knows I'll have plenty of mind wipe after tonight. There we go. Hold on. Yeah, yeah. You got to put the HTTP in front of that. Silly. Make it an actual hypertext link. Just copy and paste it. Both consciously studying this dynamic over decades of experiment and spontaneously adapting to these situations as they happened, the charlatans perfected the science of attracting and holding a crowd, molding the crowd into followers, and the followers into a cult. Very fucking easy. I I gave her the magic wand in it's a cult leader thing, and she's actually got to promote the cult. It's literally a law. I've yet to see that happen. Squab's also a cult leader, so it's problematic. But we haven't gotten a chance to actually examine his cult to see if it's recognized. Not yet, anyway. It was to the charlatan's advantage that the individuals predisposed to credulity should multiply, that the groups of his adherents should enlarge to mass proportions, guaranteeing an ever greater scope for his triumphs. And this was in fact to occur as science was popularized from the Renaissance on down through succeeding centuries. With the immense growth of knowledge and its spread through printing in modern times, the mass of the half-educated, the eagerly gullible prey of the quack also increased, became indeed a majority. Oh my goodness. This is not problematic at all. Real power could be based on their wishes because there were just too damn many of them. Opinions, preferences, and rejections. The charlatan's empire accordingly widened with modern dissemination of knowledge, since he operated on the basis of science, however much he perverted it. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Producing gold with a technique borrowed from chemistry, and his wonderful balsams with the apparatus of medicine, he could not appeal to an entirely ignorant folk. The illiterate would be protected against his absurdities by their healthy common sense. His choicest audience would be composed of the semi-literate, those who had exchanged their common sense for a little distorted information and had encountered science and education at some time, though briefly and unsuccessfully. The great mass of mankind has always been predisposed to marvel at mysteries, and this was especially true at certain historic periods when the secure foundations of life seemed shaken and old values, economic or spiritual, long accepted certainties, could no longer be relied upon. Then the numbers of the charlatan's dupes multiplied. The self-killers, as a 17th century Englishman called them. The power of the charlatan. Greta de Francesco, 1939, and he makes a point here. Makes a really, really, really good point here. Just how easy it is for the people who aren't truly aware, but are just viable. Like people who tend to think on a more emotional level tend to be the semi-literate, the people who don't understand the concept of critical thinking. These are the people who get duped into cults. This is why my cult is a really shitty small following. I mean, y'all are the best, but it's not a big cult. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm never gonna have the big cult. Be like, hey, who's got the big cult? Uh, right now, I mean, out of all the people I know who have a big cult, I have the smallest cult of all. Lucada's got the biggest cult, you think, Div? I don't know. Like, out of all the people I know, you might be right. Like, no, personally, I've had a very brief convert that we know. Yeah, that we know, definitely. I know one or two people who have a bigger following, which is probably I don't think it's as cult like as Mr. Arcada's, but I could see how all of us would be connected underneath that cult leader in some form or another. But out of all the people that I actually know personally that have a following of any kind, yours still the biggest, and for the most part, the coolest following. I did. I mean, uh, small puppies and kittens. Yeah, it is quality, in my opinion. But I don't want a cult like following. I want a group of people around me who are here because they think for themselves and because they can be a part of this community based on their own independent thoughts. I don't want to tell anyone what to think. I have a really odd way of thinking about shit my own damn self. They really are self killers because you have to lose yourself to be them and adapt all their beliefs. Not speaking of YouTube, but the ones you move. Yeah, of course. I mean, but even with a YouTube following or a YouTube cult, you give up something of yourself, your time, to be a part of that group with all those people. Everyone else, I mean, everyone's giving up. Like it said right in here, you have to ask your cult to sacrifice something by doing these streams and having an audience here, building an audience. I'm not saying a cult in general, but just like a following. I'm asking everyone that comes to this show to sacrifice their time, everything else they could be doing to at least be participating here. Like 357 shows up in the mix. The following is growing. Like you're making stuff up that has nothing to do with anything. Good to see you, 357. Yeah, I mean it is it's definitely a different level. Like I would never ever start a cult that people would come dwell at, but I never a year and a half ago thought I would start a YouTube channel, and I definitely wouldn't think I would have a whole shitload of stuff to talk about on it. Turns out this book is just a very small beginning of a whole lot of stuff I want to do here. However, this book drags on and on and on and on and on and on like a big giant lead anchor, and we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit later. But hopefully, by the time I'm done with this chapter, and I can get into the discussion of how long this book is actually taking, I will still have most of the followers here. The gimmicks of the charlatans may seem quaint today, but there are thousands of charlatans among us still, using the same tried and true methods their predecessors refined centuries ago, only changing the names of their elixirs and modernizing the look of their cults. We find these latter day charlatans in all arenas of life: business, fashion, politics, art, culture. I mean, I could go on and on and on with this list. This list stops here, but many of them, perhaps, are following in the charlatan tradition without having any knowledge of its history. But you can be more systematic and deliberate. Simply follow the 5 steps of cult making that our charlatan ancestors perfected over the years. I'm fairly certain had, yeah, yeah, there you go, had a. I almost thought about setting up a Kool-Aid stand in the back of the room, Paul. I figured that would be a little cliche, so I'm gonna have bartenders show up for the after party. Unfortunately, you will have to stick around till the after party where we have open bar in order to see how that works out. It's a different approach, trust me. But it might be worth hanging out for. Or you might just end up really wasted and pretend you hate yourself. Uh, what can I say? I try to be a good leader. I try to be. I strive to be the leader that will keep people coming back. Anyone? I was going to say, anyone got any idea about the 5 steps? However, the first one has already revealed itself. It has been spoilered. And unfortunately, contrary to what Swab guessed earlier, the first step in cult making does not involve puppies and kittens. Early bird doesn't get fired because they get to work on time. Yes, I can translate. Early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse does indeed get the cheese. Well played, Castro. Step 1 in cult making: keep it vague, keep it simple. To create a cult, you must first attract attention, which we have done. This you should do not through actions, which are too clear and readable, but through words, which are hazy and deceptive allegedly. Your initial speeches, conversations, and interviews must include 2 elements. On the one hand, the promise of something great and transformative, and on the other, a total vagueness. So you basically gotta like, oh my goodness. This combination will stimulate all kinds of hazy dreams in your listeners who will make their own connections and see what they want to see. Large promises all over the place. I got news for you. Means you gay. I heard hazy, vague, allegedly. We got ourselves. No, we don't. No, we do not. To make your vagueness attractive, use words of great resonance, but cloudy meaning. Like, I don't know, freedom, liberty, patriot. Or if you're in opposite cult of that, uh, equality, diversity, uh, freedom. Notice how words overlap sometimes. Words full of heat and enthusiasm. Fancy titles for simple things are helpful, as are the use of numbers and the creation of new words for vague concepts. Mm, gee, trying to think of some examples of some new words for some vague concepts. I feel like everybody here already knows a really good long list of new words. I see what you're doing here tonight. So fucking true. Is all a cult. No thinking that. Intersectionality. There you go. Thank you, Div. You are absolutely spot the fuck on. That is actually the one I was trying to think of. Intersectionality, which literally just means like people being fucking different. It's literally not a concept we had to actually think about before. Multiculturalism, another fucking concept we didn't actually have to think about before. Like, no, like, we have the culture, and you come here to be a part of the culture. We didn't make this place for you to bring your culture to destroy it. Like, frog it. Don't be trying to start a cult now off of this advice of this here damn chapter now, young man. I'm just saying. I've seen you. You look like David Koresh. You need to chill out. I'm just saying. Also, Paul, don't think about starting no cult either. And if you do, don't make other Paul a officer in your cult. That would be bad. Like a fed Manson. Oh my goodness. Fed as in well fed. Like, yeah, you're right. Fat Chuck Manson meets Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Moving on. Hey, all y'all who are thinking about stealing my idea of starting a fucking cult off of this advice, I copyrighted this idea. I've got trademarks and patents pending, and I will sue the living fuck out of all of you. Do not start any cults based on any ideas or any advice you thought you got here. You didn't get any advice here. All of these create the impression of specialized knowledge, giving you a veneer of profundity. By the same token, try to make the subject of your cult new and fresh, so that few will understand it. Done right, the combination of vague promises, cloudy but alluring concepts, and fiery enthusiasm will stir people's souls and a group will form around you. Oddly enough, the only place I've actually ever seen this is with people who are truly people of faith. I've never actually seen a cult like up close and personal, but I have seen people of actual faith legitimately have this type of energy around them. Chilomania. Speaking of people who should start a cult, definitely Shilomania. I would sign up. I don't know how you got here, but there's some Kool-Aid in the back. They just set up the table. I thought I had canceled that. Turns out I lied. So for everybody else, Kool-Aid's in the back. Joining the cult of Shilomania. Yep, divs on board. I'm with it. Space lasers sounds great. Absolutely. You're that faith nerd? Well, I am too. Turns out I'm with it. But yeah, the only place I've ever seen like the actual kind of fire there in fury and enthusiasm in something that is vague and can't adequately be explained, yeah, is in the actual faith, like the Christian faith specifically. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with cult groups or a lot of other religions directly. I have a theoretical knowledge, but never tried to go be Muslim for a day. I don't think that's a thing you can do. Never converted to Judaism because I never married a pretty Jewish girl who pointed space lasers at me and said convert to Judaism or else. I'm just saying. These things never happened. Okay. Okay. Talk too vaguely and you have no credibility. But it is more dangerous to be specific, so you got to balance it out. If you explain in detail the benefits people will gain by following your cult, you will be expected to satisfy them. And the problem with forming a cult is you don't actually ever satisfy anyone's need for being there. For the record, this is the first ever stream I've ever seen have a 100% like to live view ratio. I don't have a big following, a huge cult, Paul. I really don't. But the people who I have that do follow me, they love me. I love them. I'm super glad everybody made it. Like, especially for the cult stream. Like, we got to talk about this, even if it does take all damn night, and it could. And I don't have Bijou here anymore, stinging me to continue. So I'm gonna keep hanging out with the following and doing less and less damn actual work, which is gonna make this just drag on for hours. As a corollary to its vagueness, your appeal should also be simple. Most people's problems have complex causes, deep-rooted neurosis, interconnected social factors, roots that go way back in time and are exceedingly hard to unravel. Few, however, have the patience to deal with this. Ain't that a damn truth? Most people want to hear that a simple solution will cure their problems. Thus, we come to such epidemics as the opioid crisis, like the cult of positivity, uh, so many different things that people just like jump behind because somebody promises them an easy, effortless cure all. Be very, very fucking aware of the I have it all, I have all the answers person. That person's selling you a line of bullshit. 100%. That inverted is embrace the person who has all the questions because they're the person who's actually going somewhere. The ability to offer this kind of solution will give you great power and build you a following. Instead of the complicated explanations of real life, return to the primitive solutions of our ancestors, to good old country remedies, to mysterious panaceas. Oh my goodness. The less people know about shit, oh, there's a whole cult of positivity out there for a shot. At some point, I may do a offhand stream specifically discussing the cult of the. Bleh! Hold on, words misfirings in my brain. Sorry, but the cult of positivity is very gross. You're right, and it is inherently dishonest as any other cult following. Uh, and I really would like to talk specifically about the cult of positivity because a lot of people seem to think that I'm a very positive person. And I like to think I'm more of a pragmatic realist than anything else. So I reject positivity for its own sake outright in almost all cases. It's not hard. I'll teach you. You can do it too. Phase up. Let's get back to building our cult, shall we? Step 2. Emphasize the visual and sensual over the intellectual. See, this is why I keep failing because I want to analyze everything. Uh, Hold on. I want to analyze everything intellectually, and I don't want to appeal to people's more emotional nature. I guess is the. I need fizzy water and coffee. Well, go ahead, get fizzy water and coffee. I promise you, we'll still be here when you get back, and I also promise that you probably won't miss much. Once people have begun to gather around you, two dangers will present themselves: boredom and skepticism. Oh, fuck. Boredom will make people go elsewhere. Of course it will. Skepticism will allow them the distance to think rationally about whatever it is you are offering, blowing away the mist you have artfully created and revealing your ideas for what they are. You need to amuse the bored then and ward off the cynics. Well, I'm right fucked now, aren't I? Please, everybody, do more drugs and uh, question less. I'm gonna try to be more entertaining. You don't look bored. Some people might be bored. Some people might decide like, oh, Hideous is just like on some bullshit. I'm gonna go somewhere else. No, there's a reason I knew that this stream was gonna go for a really long time tonight because I knew I was gonna have to talk about so much of this shit in such an in-depth detail that I might just bore the living shit out of people. I'm gonna try to stay funny. I promise. We will see if I can maintain all the way through the end. Crikey, no room for honesty. I'm totally fucked. Right, Claire? This is what I'm saying. Like, how the hell am I ever gonna start a fucking cult with these expectations? I don't know. Hopefully, I can depend on some of the other things like getting people to uh, benevolently encourage joining the cult. Unfortunately, I'm trying to like get people to think for themselves. Yeah, exactly. I've been doing it all wrong as well. I'm doing it wrong as we stand, and I'm going to continue to read forward and do it wrong some more. Like backwards, in fact, completely backwards. That's too much. Uh, the best way to do this is through theater or other devices of its kind. Surround yourself with luxury. Dazzle your followers with visual splendor. This is why all the all the people I know that are doing YouTube streams, they've got like uh, a lot of visual effects and punch-ins and just different things to make their streams more entertaining. Adding entertainment value to your programming if you're trying to form a cult is a definite way to keep the board interested. Oh, you almost got me. You almost got me. You almost had to do a program with steps, but it was for moral support. Sunday midnight is my spot. Okay, well, gonna have to promote that. Sunday midnight, huh? Hit me with a link. I'll try to open up my stuff before I leave. Or, if you're really clever, give the link to Mousy and have Mousy promote the stream, or the channel anyway. Oh, never mind. Mousy's got to leave. Guess you're screwed unless you can get Bijou to show up. Maybe give it to Div. Who knows? I know all my stuff shut down right now because anything that I have running, like Discord, just kills my stream for some reason. Fill their eyes with spectacle. Not only will this keep them from seeing the ridiculousness of your ideas, the holes in your belief system, it will also attract more attention, more followers. Appeal to all the senses. Use incense for scent, soothing music for hearing. I mean, I just have my voice. Sorry, y'all. I don't have any incense. You can't smell a YouTube stream. Colorful charts and graphs for the eye. You might even tickle the mind, perhaps, by using a new technological gadget to give your cult a pseudo-scientific veneer. I'm not trying to do Scientography here, y'all. I'm just using the internet. As long as you do not make anyone really think. Well, fuck. Screwed again. Use the exotic. Distant cultures, strange customs to create theatrical effects and to make the most banal and ordinary affairs seem signs of something extraordinary. Okay, well, I definitely don't need to do any of that because unfortunately, the most banal and ordinary affairs of our time tend to be of very significant import and tend to be something that people should actually be paying attention to. I don't lead the head charge on the culture wars. I play a support role of understanding mostly how people are manipulated within the culture and within society at large. That's what the 48 Laws of Power was all about in the first place, was understanding the like concepts of how power is used against you and how you can gain it yourself. Not all of this shit is going to be appropriate for everyone. But that's what my following is supposed to be about. Go out and form your own cults. Get people to believe. Oh, of course he does. Because he's a woman. I didn't. I didn't. I said it. Anyway, step 3. Okay, so we're almost halfway through the steps now. Borrow the forms of organized religion to structure your group. And this should be so obvious because it's so tried and true. Your cult-like following is growing. It is time to organize. Find a way both elevating and comforting. Organized religions have long held unquestioned authority for large numbers of people and continue to do so in our supposedly secular age. And even if the religion itself has faded some, its forms still resonate with power. The lofty and holy associations of organized religion can be endlessly exploited. Create rituals for your followers. Organize them into a hierarchy, ranking them in grades of sanctity and giving them names and titles that resound with religious overtones. Ask them for sacrifices that will fill your coffers and increase your power. To emphasize your gathering's quasi-religious nature, talk and act like a prophet. You are not a dictator, after all. You are a priest, a guru, a sage, a shaman, or any other word that hides your real power in the midst of religion. Oh my goodness. We are like getting into Jim Jones, David Koresh type. Just the concepts alone. This is gonna be an awesome 12-hour stream. It might be a adequate 8-hour stream. Oh shit. I lit the wrong thing. My bad. I gotta get to bed. Good night, all you beautiful people. Great show so far. I I will try to keep it somewhat reasonable, Paul. I knew the minute I started looking into this earlier that 4 hours might be on the table. Oh, son of a bitch, and that's empty? Oh my goodness. I'm a terrible cult leader. Good night, Paul. Have fun at work tomorrow, Skeezix. Hopefully you're around tonight for Div stream tomorrow because I don't even want to get into why. Maybe she'll kill you this time. Hey, how about that? uh, I don't want to spoil too much, but maybe she'll kill Paul this time. We will see. Cheers, y'all. Are you taking off, Claire? Have a good night. I'll catch you around. Oh yeah, Moshy's about to go live, isn't she? Well, you send my love over to the small mouse and protect the fish and shit. Go ahead and come back after that's over. We'll be here still. At least I will. Step 4. Disguise your source of income. Your group has grown and you have structured it in a church-like form. Your coffers are beginning to fill with your followers' money, yet you must never be seen as hungry for money and the power it brings. It is at this moment that you must disguise the source of your income. Your followers want to believe that if they follow you, all sorts of good things will fall into their lap. By surrounding yourself with luxury, you become living proof of the soundness of your belief system. Never reveal that your wealth actually comes from your followers' pockets. Instead, make it seem to come from the truth of your methods. Followers will copy your each and every move in the belief that it will bring them the same results, and their imitative enthusiasm will blind them to the charlatan nature of your wealth. Dear Miss Little Mr. Beast, please pay attention right now to exactly what this said. This is a key. This is a key. Anywho, fifth and final step, y'all. We're we're almost seeming to start getting there. Set up an us versus them dynamic. And this right here is the keyest of all things in cult making, in my opinion, is the formation of the in group bias. And this is how the progressives, specifically in our culture, have actually managed to win the culture war for the last, I don't know, I've only been alive for 40 years. They've been winning it longer than I've been around, but they have an us versus them dynamic. And anyone who threatens their belief gets the hellfire of the whole fucking cult. The name progressive itself is pretentious AF. No, no, you want to know pretentious when these fucking idiots call themselves liberals and then they espouse, by their very nature, regressive and inverted views. There's nothing liberal about regressivism. That's pretentious as fuck. And that is one of the things that annoys me the most is people calling regressive progressivists who literally have lost all view of the point of progressivism and now are seeking progress purely for the sake of progress itself and nothing more. They have no interest in freedom. They already have freedom. They only have interest in power, and they would like to acquire more of it. So they will keep pushing their agenda until it cracks. Anywho, the us versus them dynamic. The group is now large and thriving, a magnet attracting more and more particles. If you are not careful, though, inertia will set in and time and boredom will demagnetize the group. To keep your followers united, you must now do what all religions and belief systems have done. Create an us versus them dynamic. I got a really good feeling there's going to be a lot to talk about with the us versus them dynamic, especially as it relates to religion specifically. Because, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of personal experience with all the religions, but the ones I have in general, in my experience, not espoused so much in us versus them, more so as if everybody could just be us, that would be great, sort of vibe. I am aware that there are significant cases of religions that do tend to put this sort of actual mentality forward. I haven't actually gotten a chance to talk with any of these people, like on a one-on-one basis. Not any of these extreme, like us versus them type of people. I've heard some of them talk. Like it's really easy to parse their words for what they are when they're sowing divisionism because they're ob- overtly appealing to one group at the expense of another. It's almost a shame at this point. First, make sure your followers believe they are part of an exclusive club. Darth Hideous Club, y'all. Unified by a bond of common goals, not being a dumbass. And that is what I hope everybody here's common goal is to not be stupid or ignorant of the world around them. I don't espouse anything more or less. Believe what you want to believe, but do so with an informed mind. Then, to strengthen this bond, manufacture the notion of a devious enemy out to ruin you. I don't need to manufacture this. Everyone knows it exists. There is a force of non believers that will do anything to stop you. I mean, they might not do anything to stop me, but eventually, if I ever gain any traction in this shit, they will definitely come for me. They've come for many before me. Any outsider who tries to reveal the charlatan nature of your belief system can now be described as a member of this devious force. Well, they are the devious force. I'm definitely not the charlatan, y'all. Promise you. If you have no enemies, invent one. I don't need to. just like I just said, like the enemies I have are clear as the enemies of everyone around me. They're not any different. It is the big bad. Given a straw man to react against, your followers will tighten and cohere. They have your cause to believe in and infidels to destroy. And unfortunately, like the problem I have with building my following is I don't believe that the people who would tighten and cohere to destroy me are my enemies, even though they believe I am their enemy. I would welcome them into the light of the truth if only they had ears to hear. And whoever has ears to hear, let them. I might not be the best messenger, but I might be a good first stepping stone for most. At least I try to be. I want to make people think. Observances of the law. Observance 1. In the year 1653, a 27-year-old Milan man named Francesco Giuseppe Borri claimed to have had a vision. He went around town telling one and all that the archangel Michael had appeared to him and announced that he would be chosen to be the Capitano Generale of the army of the new pope, an army that would seize and revitalize the world. The archangel had further revealed that Borri now had the power to see people's souls. Holy shit, this guy's making some extremely bold claims. And that he would soon discover the Philosopher's Stone, a long sought after substance that could change base metals into gold. Allegedly, the Philosopher's Stone also had the properties of granting its bearer immortality, but that's not covered here. Hey, Heidi, I need to cover what you're talking about real quick. Hold on. In a sociology class, race and ethnic relations taught by a white lesbian, hence the beginning of intersectionality, was very into the in-group, out-group stuff. Yeah, and in-group, out-group bias is a very real thing in a lot of situations. And I was forced to to you were forced to take that class to graduate. That's no, this is what actually caught my attention. She also loved to blab about her Latina partner and wanted to make California, I'm assuming, not Canada, but the California CA, Mexico again. Other than the propaganda, she was a really cool professor. I actually liked her a lot. Just the BS was screaming. I'm all on board with making California Mexico again. Sorry, Div. I'm also on board with making Canada Mexico also. And I have a very different reason for that. So if Mexico is in the mood to purchase either Canada or California, I'm let it never be said that I wasn't on board with putting talks on the table right now. Go Hagen. You did catch some of it. Luckily for you, you may have caught the longest, most drawn out law of the entire book right here tonight, because I'm fairly certain I'm nowhere near done with this, and I'm almost 2 hours in. We are on the first observance of the 5-part law, so there's that. Hmm. No, I'm almost certain, actually, that we're almost halfway through right now. But I still have a whole shitload more to say. Uh, Back to Bori, the chosen Capitano Generale, and his Philosopher's Stone. Friends and acquaintances who heard Bori explain the vision and who witnessed the change that had come over him were impressed. For Bori had previously devoted himself to a life of wine, women, and gambling. Now he gave all that up, plunging himself into the study of alchemy and talking only of mysticism and the occult. So this guy immediately got clout, specifically because the people who he initially was appealing to knew him for having a very specific reputation. And that reputation was not anything of any sort of leader, like gambling, wine, and women. You probably not going to want to follow this guy. But he immediately switched up his entire vibe, and he got obsessed with mysticism and the occult. But it was his old him that's going to sell the new one. The transformation was so sudden and miraculous, and Bori's words were so filled with enthusiasm that he began to create a following. Unfortunately, the Italian Inquisition began to notice him as well. They prosecuted anyone who delved into the occult. So he left Italy and began to wander Europe. From Austria to Holland, telling one and all that to those who follow me, all joy shall be granted. Okay, so his vision, his grand vision of being the Capitane Generale, the Capitano Generale, that kind of seemed to fall apart, right? But he disappeared right around the time that was falling apart. Wherever Bori stayed, he attracted followers. His method was simple. He spoke of his vision, which had grown more and more elaborate, and offered to look into the soul of anyone who believed him, and they were many. Seemingly in a trance, he would stare at this new follower for several minutes, then claim to have seen the person's soul, degree of enlightenment, and potential for spiritual greatness. So he didn't just see your soul, he saw your soul, he saw your fucking future, and he saw your whole existence. Oh my. If what he saw showed promise, he would add the person to his growing order of disciples. An honor indeed. I have one fucking question. How many people did Bori come across, do you guys think, that didn't show enough enthusiasm that he rejected? Because you have to balance this out. In order for your group to seem special, you have to be willing to outright reject people in front of other people and tell them they can't be in your fucking cult. Hmm. This is how a proper cult leader do. Coffee with all the sugar I can find, with a side of bong loads, 'cause balance. I personally am doing a three-piece mixture of I got cigarettes, bong loads, whiskey and water. That's a four part. Holy shit. I can't even do math. Don't follow me in my cult, please. I'm serious. The cult had 6 degrees into which the disciples were assigned according to what Bori had glimpsed in their souls. With work and total devotion to the cult, they could graduate to a higher degree. Bori, whom they called His Excellency and Universal Doctor, demanded from them the strictest vows of poverty. Okay, I see where this is going. He demands the strictest vows of poverty, but where does all the wealth that his followers generate go, I wonder? El Café con Azúcar. Yes, I also speak very minimal Spanish. Oh, there's an inside story with Divin Charlemagne. Maybe Div will give us a teaching us how to wrap large oversized presents stream with a perfect bow. We gonna hope. We gonna hope. All the goods and monies they possessed had to be turned over to him. Called it. Nailed it. But they did not mind handing over their property, for Bori had told them, I shall soon bring my chemical studies to a happy conclusion by the discovery of the philosopher's stone, and by this means we shall all have as much gold as we desire. No, he's right. It's coffee with sugar. Where's Bori from? Bori originally from Italy. Francesco Giuseppe Bori. He was driven out of Italy by the Italian Inquisition, and now he's traveling abroad, Austria, Holland, basically across the Germanic region right now. So he's gathering followers, but he was Italian, this Bori fellow. So given his growing wealth, Bori began to change his style of living, renting the most splendid apartment in the city into which he had temporarily settled. He would furnish it with fabulous furniture and accessories, which he had begun to collect. He would drive through the city in a coach studded with jewels, with 6 magnificent black horses at its head. So we are talking about the most drippiest 6 horsepower coach of its time. Very drippy, very 6 horsepower. Very top speed of 30 miles an hour. He never stayed too long in one place, thank God. And when he disappeared, saying he had more souls to gather into his flock, his reputation only grew in his absence. I'm pretty sure we did a law on that back in the teens. Something about using absence to increase your reputation. Uh, don't quote me, but you can pretty much quote me. He became famous, although in fact he had never done a single concrete thing. To become the founder of a new religion, one must be psychologically infallible in one's knowledge of a certain average type of souls who have not yet recognized that they belong together. Hmm, that's very profound. Friedrich Nietzsche, of course it is. Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived. Niccolo Machiavelli. And truth in both of those statements actually actually persist. What do you want? Anima Vestra? First get the chair. uh, uh, stop, guys. Oh, you're making me laugh too much hard. That's becoming too much fun. Yeah. I know what you said. But she said Anima Vestra, so she got Animal Vest out of Anima Vestra, and that's what makes it funny because Animal Vest first get the chair. I agree. Or the wood chipper. I mean, from all over Europe, the blind, the crippled, and the desperate came to visit Bori, for word had spread that he had healing powers. He asked no fee for his services, which only made him seem more marvelous. Hold on, uh, class, have we ever heard of somebody who went from town to town with healing powers that charged no fee for his services and developed a very large following? Raise your hands if you've heard a similar story in your lifetime of a healer who had mysterious powers. I mean, this motherfucker's literally ripping off a very old story, is what I'm saying. This story's been done before. Why you gotta steal my man Jesus's whole following? Like this was the thing Jesus did, and this is how he developed the following. Yep, it was Jesus, Heidi. You're correct. And indeed, some claim that in this or that city he had performed a miracle cure. By only hinting at his accomplishments, he encouraged people's imaginations to blow them up to fantastic proportions. His wealth, for example, actually came from the vast sums he was collecting from his increasingly select group of rich disciples, yet it was presumed that he had in fact perfected the philosopher's stone because he was turning everything he touched into gold, everything around him specifically. The church continued to pursue him, denouncing him for heresy and witchcraft, as well they should. And Bori's response to these charges was a dignified silence. This only enhanced his reputation and made his followers more passionate. Only the great are persecuted, after all. How many understood Jesus Christ in his own time? See, I told you he stole a gimmick. I told you he stole the whole shit from my mans. Get your own damn. I mean, Bori did not have to say a word. His followers now called the Pope the Antichrist. Oh my goodness. Oh my god, my Instacart guy wanted to shoot the breeze on the phone for 20 minutes. Like, excuse me, but it's Starflower. Uh, uh, Fortunately for you, Charlemania, like I said, this one's going to end up going down in the books as the longest in all of the laws, and it only gets longer because the conversation with the audience, the followers, as it would be, only gets better. I'm only having more fun with everybody. I'm already prepared to be doing this at 2 o'clock in the morning and not quite be done with it. Actually, I do know about how much is left. It's not going to be 2 o'clock in the morning, I promise. People have real lives to get back to, and I don't have anywhere to house all of you motherfuckers. However, this is definitely going to be the longest one yet. And so Bori's power grew and grew until one day he left the city of Amsterdam, where he had settled for a while, absconding with huge sums of borrowed money and diamonds that had been entrusted to him. He claimed to be able to remove the flaws from diamonds through the power of his gifted mind. Now he was on the run. The Inquisition eventually caught up with him, and for the last 20 years of his life, he was imprisoned in Rome. But so great was the belief in his occult powers that to his dying day, he was visited by wealthy believers, including Queen Christina of Sweden, supplying him with money and materials. These visitors allowed him to continue his search for the elusive philosopher's stone. So, our dearly beloved con man, Mr. Bori, got caught up with because that's how these people tend to do. Look at all the great cult leaders. The only one that didn't ever get to catch up with that I'm aware of, that I never really caught up with, was Mr. L. Ron Hubbard, but I'm fairly certain L. Ron Hubbard died before his cult really took off, and I don't know who's leading that shit show anymore. Interpretation. Oh, dear God. Before he formed his cult, Borey seemed to have stumbled on a critical discovery. Tiring of his life of debauchery, mind you, this guy was a gambling, lecherous drunkard, he had decided to give it up and devote himself to the occult, a genuine interest of his. He must have noticed, however, that when he alluded to a mystical experience, rather than physical exhaustion, as the source of his conversion, people of all classes wanted to hear more. Realizing the power he could gain by ascribing the change to something external and mysterious, rather than just being fucking sick of what he was doing before, he was like ascribing it to a mystical vision. Clever. He went further with his manufactured visions. The grander the vision, and the more sacrifices he asked for, the more appealing and believable his story seemed to become. Remember, people are not interested in the truth about change. They do not want to hear that it has come from hard work or from anything as banal as exhaustion, boredom, or depression. They are dying to believe in something romantic, otherworldly. They want to hear of angels and out of body experiences. Indulge them. Hint at the mystical source of some personal change. Wrap it in ethereal colors, and a cult like following will form around you. Adapt to people's needs. The Messiah must mirror the desires of his followers, and always aim high. The bigger and bolder your illusion, the better. There's a lot there. I skipped over a thing. I'm going to go back to it now. I already knew this was going to go too long, but I did skip over this interruption because it interrupted the interpretation. But the Temple of Health. In the late 1780s, the Scottish quack James Graham was winning a large following and great riches in London. Graham maintained a show of great scientific technique. In 1772, he had visited Philadelphia, where he had met Benjamin Franklin and became interested in the latter's experiments with electricity. These appear to have inspired the apparatus in the Temple of Health. The fabulous establishment he opened in London for the sale of his elixirs. In the chief room where he received patients stood the largest air pump in the world to assist him in his philosophical investigations into disease, and also a stupendous metallic conductor, a richly gilded pedestal surrounded with retorts and vials of ethereal and other essences. According to J. Ennemoser, who published a history of magic in 1844 at Leipzig, Graham's house united the useful with the pleasurable. Everywhere the utmost magnificence was displayed, even in the outer court. Averred an eyewitness. It seemed as though art, invention, and riches had been exhausted. On the side walls in the chambers, an arc-shaped glow was provided by artificial electric light. Star rays darted forth. Transparent glasses of all colors were placed with clever selection and much taste. All this, the same eyewitness assures us, was ravishing and exalted the imagination to the highest degree. Visitors were given a printed sheet of rules for healthy living. In the great Apollo apartment, they might join in mysterious rituals accompanied by chants. Hail, vital air, ethereal, magnetic magic, hail. And while they hailed the magic of magnetism, the windows were darkened, revealing a ceiling studded with electric stars and a young and lovely, rosy goddess of health in a niche. Every evening, this temple of health was crowded with guests. It had become the fashion to visit it and try the great 12-foot bed of state, the Grand Celestial Bed, said to cure any disease. This bed, according to Ennemoser, stood in a splendid room into which a cylinder led from an adjoining chamber to conduct the healing currents. At the same time, all sorts of pleasing scents and strengthening herbs and oriental incense were also brought in through glass tubes. The heavenly bed itself rested upon 6 solid, transparent pillars. The bedcloths were of purple and sky blue, atlas silk spread over a mattress saturated with Arabian perfumed waters to suit the taste of the Persian court. The chamber in which it was placed he called the Sanctum Sanctorum. To add to all of this, there were the melodious notes of the harmonica, soft flutes, agreeable voices, and a great organ. I'm already ready to go to sleep. What a magnificent sounding bed that turned out to be. The power of the great charlatan again, Grete de Francesco. I just wanted to share that with y'all because it sounded like a wonderful place, and I would hope you all would aspire to have something like that to offer all of your followers in your future cults. Anywho, moving forward with observance of the law number 2. In the mid-1700s, word spread in Europe's fashionable society of a Swiss country doctor named Michael Schuppach. I'm not kidding you. I had to bring up the audio book to get this man's name correctly. It is shoepox. So it's going to come up a lot. Who practiced a different kind of medicine. He used the healing powers of gangster rap. No, wait, my bad. This is not Tupac. This is Shupak. Yes, that's exactly what I said when I first heard the initial pronunciation of it, Charlemagne. I was like, Shupak Takur, uh, we're gonna we're gonna have to actually doubt this. He used the healing powers of nature to perform miraculous cures. Soon, well-to-do people from all over the continent, their ailments both serious and mild, were making the trek to the alpine village of Langnau, where Shupak lived and worked. Trudging through the mountains, these visitors witnessed the most dramatic natural landscapes that Europe has to offer, and by the time they reached Langnau, they were already feeling transformed and on their way to health. And it had nothing to do with anything other than it's a really beautiful place that is just going to naturally inspire you and uplift your spirit. And to anyone who says the power of the mind is null in the realm of medicine has no idea how significant the placebo effect actually is. But I do know some people who know some people who know some shit about that. Dear Mama, I don't think so. Shupak, who had become known as simply the Mountain Doctor, had a small pharmacy in town. This place became quite a scene. Crowds of people from many different countries would cram the small room, its walls lined with colorful bottles filled with herbal cures, where most doctors of the time prescribed foul-tasting concoctions that bore incomprehensible Latin titles, as medicines often do still. Shoepox cures had names such as the oil of joy, little flower's heart, or dear mama. No, I'm literally making that last part up. This is not shoepox cure. Against the monster is actually what, and they tasted sweet and pleasing. Okay, well this is definitely not the shoepox I know. There's nothing sweet and pleasing about that, especially if you're the ops. Visitors to Langnau would have to wait patiently for a visit with the mountain doctor because every day some 80 messengers would arrive at the pharmacy bearing flasks of urine from all over Europe. Piss bottles, y'all. Shupak claimed he could diagnose what ailed you simply by looking at a sample of your urine and reading a written description of your ailment. That's mostly because 95% of the problems you were suffering from at that point in time was dehydration. And if your pee wasn't clear enough, it was easy enough to diagnose that you needed more fucking water. I mean, let me look at your piss and read a description of what ails you. Oh, this piss is brown. You might want more water. Trust me, it'll make you feel better. Hold on, let's get on with Shupak, shall we? Naturally, he read the description very carefully before prescribing a cure. And when he finally had a spare minute, the urine samples took up much of his time. He would call the visitor into his office in the pharmacy. He would then examine this person's urine sample, explaining that its appearance would tell him everything he needed to know. Yeah, if this person's dehydrated or not. Country people had a sense for these things, he would say. Their wisdom came from living a simple, godly life with none of the complications of urban living. This personal consultation would also include a discussion as to how one might bring one's soul more into harmony with nature. Okay, I'm quacking. Did he say? I don't know. This is allegedly, although we're gonna see. We're gonna see if he drank it. We're gonna see if he drank it. Shupak had devised many forms of treatment, each profoundly unlike the usual medical practices of the time. He was a believer, for instance, in electric shock therapy. To those who wondered whether this was in keeping with his belief in the healing power of nature, he would explain that electricity is a natural phenomenon. He was merely imitating the power of lightning. This motherfucker thinks he's Zeus. Yeah, I agree with you, Divinity. Ancient people were very odd. But if you take these concepts that these people had and you fast forward into current day, in current year, you will find that there are just a whole fucking plethora of people still to this day who still hold just as absurd beliefs as the people from the ancient times. In my book, they suggested rubbing it on your face. Oh, I don't know what book you're reading. I'm not going to read that one though. I'm not. They're starting to say urine is some magical cure again. Want to make medicines and shit. Oh my goodness. They would. After a while, they shot him dead. Though no one for sure knew he was dead, and rumors abound to this day that he's alive on some paradisical island somewheres. And maybe allegedly that is to this day where I be. Oh no, wait, Shupak. My bad. You were talking about Shupak. Thank you, Squab, for that. He is definitely out there. Shupak is still alive, y'all. Free Shupak. One of his patients claimed to be inhabited by 7 devils. The doctor cured him with electrical shocks, and as he administered these, he exclaimed that he could see the devils flying out of the man's body one by one. Another man claimed to have swallowed a hay wagon and its driver. Oh, dear goodness. Which were causing him massive pains in the chest. You swallowed a whole hay wagon and its driver? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call bullshit at this point. And that would have been my response as the doctor. The mountain doctor listened patiently, claimed to be able to hear the crack of a whip in the man's belly, promised to cure him, and gave him a sedative and a purgative. If you don't know what a purgative is, C. Syrup of ipecac. Or too much booze, tainted moonshine, uh, expired milk. A lot of things can be a purgative, but a sedative and a purgative. The man fell asleep on a chair outside the pharmacy. As soon as he awoke, he vomited. Of course he did. And as he vomited, a hay wagon sped past him. The mountain doctor had hired it for the occasion, the crack of its whip making him feel that somehow he had indeed expelled it under the doctor's care. Oh my. Uh, yeah, he got bullshitted to the extreme. But the sedative was to put him to sleep. Uh, and the purgative, of course, you're not going to wake up feeling great. Over the years, the mountain doctor's fame grew. He was consulted by the powerful. Even the writer Goethe made the trek to his village, and he became the center of a cult of nature in which everything natural was considered worthy of worship. Schupat was careful to create effects that would entertain and inspire his patients. A professor who visited him once wrote, "One stands or sits in company. One plays cards, sometimes with a young woman. Now concert is given, now a lunch or supper, and now a little ballet is presented. With a very happy effect, the freedom of nature is everywhere united with the pleasures of the beau monde, and if the doctor is not able to heal any diseases, he can at least cure hypochondria and the vapors. So you won't have the vapors if there's nothing wrong with you at all. He can actually cure your melancholy. Why wouldn't it be? Nature is divine. Exactly. Like it was the pure force of the natural environment that was actually alluded to having the most healing effect on these people. I heard from a few people who read it, if you get covered in cactus needles and can't get actual help, or for wounds out in nature too, you're supposed to pee on it. This isn't ancient either. This was the 1990s. They also said you were supposed to pee on jellyfish stings, and they said that as recently as the 1990s. But please go look that up, and that is just as much an old wives' tale as any of the ones you've seen presented to you thus far in this law. If you do get stung by jellyfish, get a goddamn anti-venom. Interpretation. Shupak had begun his career as an ordinary village doctor. He would sometimes use in his practice some of the village remedies he had grown up with, and apparently he noticed some results. For these herbal tinctures and natural forms of healing became his specialty. And in fact, his natural form of healing did have profound psychological effects on his patients. Where the normal drugs of the time created fear and pain, Shupak's treatments were comfortable and soothing. The resulting improvement in the patient's mood was a critical element in the cures he brought about. So it had very little to do with the fact of you actually being cured, but rather in your overall mood improving. You've got to be kidding me. Did it help? Uh, I mean, her specifically. Like I don't know if she did it to you, but I mean, it helps something, I'm sure, but it doesn't actually cure you of jellyfish things. Uh, the resulting improvements in the patient's mood was a critical element in the cure that he brought about. His patients believed so deeply in his skills that they willed themselves into health instead of scoffing at their irrational explanations for their ailments. Shupak used their hypochondria to make it seem that he had effected a cure. So what Shupak was doing here was curing hypochondriacs of their melancholy by introducing them to like reality in nature. Man, how convincing. Oh. God damn it, Maddie. Uh, the case of the mountain doctor teaches us valuable lessons in the creation of a cult like following. First, you must find a way to engage people's will, to make their belief in your powers strong enough that they imagine all sorts of benefits. Their belief will have a self fulfilling quality, but you must make sure that it is you, rather than their own will, who is seen as the agent of transformation. That's funny because I'm fairly certain. Div, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it yesterday while you were doing the subtle art of not giving a fuck that you mentioned the psychosomatic difference between actually lifting weights and just thinking about lifting weights, and that actually having a metaphysical effect on the body of the person engaged in that that was yesterday, wasn't it? And this is basically exactly what Mr. Shupak was actually relying on, was the power of the mind to heal the body. Yeah, this is the same fucking thing, right? Pretty sure. It's funny because while I was reading that, that's exactly what popped in my head. I was like, wait, I just heard this story yesterday, last night. But yeah, I mean, it's really easy to manipulate one's mind into harming itself, basically. Find the belief, cause, or fantasy that will make them believe with a passion, and they will imagine the rest, worshiping you as healer, prophet, genius, whatever you like. Second, Shupak teaches us the everlasting power of belief in nature and in simplicity. Nature, in reality, is full of much that is terrifying: poisonous plants, fierce animals, sudden disasters, plagues, Ohio. Belief in the healing, comforting quality of nature is really a constructed myth, a romanticism. But the appeal to nature can bring you great power, especially in complicated and stressful times, mostly because it takes your mind off of that which is complicated and stressful. This was in the subtle art of not giving a fuck that Div did yesterday. I believe it was the chapter 6. Uh, You're wrong about everything. It might be chapter 5, but the title is You're Wrong About Everything. And definitely worth a watch. Ignore the fact of how many times my name gets mentioned. It's called You're Wrong About Everything. Yeah, chapter 6. Correct. But ignore the fact of how many times my name comes up. They're not talking about me, I promise. Especially fucking Nova. But yeah, go, definitely highly recommended. Go watch all of Div's coverage of the subtle art of not giving a fuck. It's worth it. But yeah, back to the power of nature healing you in complicated and stressful times. Anything simplistic can have the power to heal you in stressful and uncertain times from the wages of the stress and uncertainty. Just thinking about nothing. Just think about thinking about nothing until you can think about so much nothing that all the things that are weighing upon your mind become things that are no longer weighing upon you because you focused so much on not thinking about them that they no longer have the power to cause you the ailments that come from the stress of the shit that's always on your mind. Oh, and just to tag my friend Div again, uh, if you want your people to do remote viewing, get them to think about thinking about nothing and get them prepared to do that long before they actually go looking for things that aren't there. Get them very used to forgetting about the things that are there. It is the meditations. It's not the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, but that is coming up. I I actually have to do a poll with my audience because it's funny that you bring up the meditations because that's I have two books that I want to do next in this stream specifically. I want to either do The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, or I want to do The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius by Marcus Aurelius, of course. We will see what. Yeah, only available on Rumble. Are you talking about Div? Because yes, Div stream is not actually available on YouTube. It is only available on Rumble, and you should go check it out. I promise, it's worth it. Hmm. I'm definitely going to do both. Uh, I don't know which one to do next. They both hit so hard with me. I actually think I might do the meditations next, just because Clairview, expressed interest in wanting to discuss Stoic philosophy with me, and I feel like one of the best places to start in doing a series on Stoic philosophy is with the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. But the Prince is also very useful in that same discussion. So much to do, so much time. We will figure it out. Belief in the healing, comforting quality of nature is really a constructed myth, a romanticism, but the appeal to nature can bring you great power, especially in complicated and stressful times. This appeal, however, must be handled right. Devise a kind of theater of nature in which you, as the director, pick and choose the qualities that fit the romanticism of the times. The mountain doctor played the part to perfection, playing up his homespun wisdom and wit, and staging his cures as dramatic pieces. He did not make himself one with nature. Instead, he molded nature into a cult, an artificial construction, to create a natural effect. You actually have to work hard, making nature theatrical and delightfully pagan. Otherwise, no one will notice. Nature, too, must follow trends and be progressive. Ah, there's that word again. Oh my goodness. Ah, I'm loving the following right now. Is anybody ready for Observance 3, or do you all want to talk about nature some more? Because this guy turned nature into a cult. It's very disturbing. But he definitely sold it. Observance number 3? Okay, I listened to the first remote viewing one and one or two of the chapters from the book, and they were both really cool. 3D life keeps getting in my way of getting back to finish them, but I will in time. That's for you, Div. I'm sure you're still here. Nature is God's present to us. The red light spectrum from the sun is actually healing and necessary. Yeah, vitamin D, the best source of getting that. That's why the vitamin D milk at the store comes with a red cap. Because vitamin D comes from that healing spectrum of uh, the infrared, not the ultraviolet, but the infrared spectrum of the sun. Not the red, but the infrared, just beyond it. Observance 3. Does nature equal naked? Uh, Not according to this. Observance 3. In 1788, at the age of 55, the doctor and scientist Franz Mesmer was at a crossroads. He was a pioneer in the study of animal magnetism, the belief that animals contain magnetic matter and that a doctor or specialist can effect miraculous cures by working on this charged substance. But in Vienna, where he lived, his theories had met with scorn and ridicule from the medical establishment. In treating women for convulsions, Mesmer claimed to have worked a number of cures, his proudest achievement being restoration of sight to a blind girl. But another doctor who examined the young girl said she was as blind as ever, an assessment with which she herself agreed. Oops. Mesmer countered that his enemies were out to slander him by winning her over to their side. This claim only elicited more ridicule. Clearly, the sober minded Viennese were the wrong audience for his theories, and so he decided to move to Paris and start again. So, this is a documentable bullshit artist, and he's going to take his bullshittery somewhere else. Seems like a decent plan. I mean, clearly these people are way too logical and rational for his bullshit, so We're gonna move on to Paris, y'all. Not till we take our medicine. Renting a splendid apartment in his new city, Mesmer decorated it appropriately. Stained glass in most of the windows created a religious feeling, and mirrors on all the walls produced a hypnotic effect. The doctor advertised that in his apartment he would give demonstrations of the powers of animal magnetism, inviting the diseased and melancholic to feel its powers. Soon, Parisians of all classes, but mostly women who seemed more attracted to the idea than men did, were paying for entry to witness the miracles that Mesmer promised. I will repeat again, this is definitely a theme. Who is more easily influenced by the charlatans? It's the Womanfolken. This is why, once upon a time, we didn't allow them to have a say. It wasn't because we didn't think they were equal. It was because we fucking knew they weren't. And we respected that. This has been your public service announcement from Darth Hideous. Inside the apartment, the scents of orange blossom and the exotic incense wafted through special vents. As the initiates filtered into the salon where the demonstrations took place, they heard harp music and the lulling sounds of a female vocalist coming from another room. In the center of the salon was a long oval container filled with water that Mesmer claimed had been magnetized. This sounds like a isolation tank. I kept seeing this YouTube advertising for a safe and effective jab for babies in the womb. I mean, I promise you, I had nothing to do with that. I'm not monetized, so I don't get to do ads. Don't laugh, Divinity. You're a woman too. From holes in the container's metal lid protruded long, movable iron rods. The visitors were instructed to sit around the container, place these magnetized rods on the body part that gave them pains or problems, and then hold hands with their neighbors, sitting as close as possible to one another to help the magnetic force pass between their bodies. Sometimes, too, they were attached to each other by cords. Are you all getting an image like I'm getting here? Uh, this is a really weird mental picture that I'm gathering from this. Mesmer would leave the room and assistant magnetizers, all handsome and strapping young men. Mind you, this was a therapy that primarily women ascribed to, So the assistant magnetizers are all handsome and strapping young men, would enter with jars of magnetized water that they would sprinkle on the patients, rubbing the healing fluid on their bodies, massaging it into their skin, moving them toward a trance-like state. After a few minutes, a kind of delirium would overcome the women. Some would sob, some would shriek and tear their hair out, others would laugh hysterically. At the height of the delirium, Mesmer would re-enter the salon, dressed in a flowing silk robe embroidered with golden flowers and carrying a white magnetic rod. Moving around the container, he would stroke and soothe the patient until calm was restored. Many women would later attribute the strange power he had on them to his piercing look, which, they thought, was exciting or quieting the magnetic fluids in their bodies. Uh, Fucking women. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sex parties is what was happening here. Definitely. That's what the hysteria was all about. They was just getting like the shock the shock value of the animal magnetism in the wrong regions, the erogenous zones, if you will. That's what it smells like anyway. Sex cults are the worst. Within months of his arrival in Paris, Mesmer became the rage. His supporters included Marie Antoinette herself, the Queen of France, wife of Louis XVI. As in Vienna, he was condemned by the official faculty of medicine, but it did not matter. His growing following of pupils and patients paid him handsomely. So he found a place with a lot more idiots because the authority of this place held the exact same opinion of him that they had in Vienna. He's a fucking retarded quack and he should be condemned. However, he found a lot of rich, dumb people in Paris. It's a brilliant move if you're going to try to invoke a cult following, is go where the people are. Mesmer expanded his theories to proclaim that all humanity could be brought into harmony through the power of magnetism, a concept with much appeal during the French Revolution. A cult of mesmerism. Oh my god, mesmerism? Like, spread across the country in many towns. Societies of harmony sprang up to experiment with magnetism. These societies eventually became notorious. They tended to be led by libertines who would turn their sessions into a kind of group orgy. Divinity. Stand up, take a bow for the class. You read the entire energy from the very beginning, and you nailed it. It's the sex parties, y'all. It's mesmerizing. And I'm pretty sure everybody here has actually like heard the term mesmerizing, mesmerism, like, and what is mesmerizing if it isn't like something that is attention attracting and seductive to the point where you lose focus with what is reality. And boom, Divinity knew. I mean, let it not be said that she didn't nail that one. We give her the first place trophy. We give her the trophy, even though she got the wrong medal on. It's a System of a Down seed. Mesmerize? Oh, yeah, Mesmerize is. That's the one before Toxicity, isn't it? Go, Hagen. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that it's really close to the end of System of a Down's actual quality output. But I think Mesmerize was before. Is that the one with sugar on it? That might be the one I'm thinking of, but we'll talk about that later. I'll get way too lost tracking down the genealogy of System of a Down music right now. Hypnotize. Hypnotize and Mesmerize were the two that were pressed together. Funny that we're talking about creating cults right now because of those two particular titles. Yeah, it was Hypnotize and Mesmerize. Nope, that's their first album with sugar. Hypnotize? I thought Hypnotize and Mesmerize were the two that were pressed together. One with a different name. Like I said, I could get lost in this fucking rabbit hole. Yeah, there we go. There's a trophy for Divinity for nailing that shit. At the height of Mesmer's popularity, a French commission published a report based on years of testing the theory of animal magnetism. The conclusion? Magnetism's effects on the body actually came from a kind of group hysteria and autosuggestion. The report was well documented and ruined Mesmer's reputation in France. He left the country and went into retirement. Only a few years later, however, imitators sprang up all over Europe and the cult of mesmerism spread once again, its believers more numerous than ever. So clearly the truth did not stop the cult. He just had to move it. Aluminum? We ain't gonna play this game, squab. It will be aluminum from here on out. I don't add extra I's in words that don't exist. I'm glad this actually is helping you get through your present rapping because I knew going into this that now it's going on 3 hours, by far the longest interpretation of the law that I would ever have to do. And it's like, I'm really going to need people around me to actually help me get through this shit. I was worried I would have lost everybody within the first hour and a half. But here we are, almost 3 hours in, digging into interpretation number fucking 3. Let's fucking go. Mesmer's career can be broken into two parts. When still in Vienna, he clearly believed in the validity of his theory and did all he could to prove it. But his growing frustration and the disapproval of his colleagues made him adopt another strategy. First, he moved to Paris where no one knew him and where his extravagant theories found a more fruitful soil. Then he appealed to the French love of theater and spectacle, making his apartment into a kind of magical world in which a sensory overload of smells, sights, and sounds entranced his customers. Most important, from now on, he practiced his magnetism only on a group, the group providing the setting in which the magnetism would have its proper effect. One believer infecting the other, overwhelming any individual doubter. So we totally cut the idea of one on one practice with this behavior because it relied on what we commonly refer to today as mass formation psychosis on a very small scale, but basically it's groupthink. And the overall energy of the group will always overwhelm the individual dissent of the doubter as long as the group is actually believing. Groupthink. Yeah, that's right. And always, always put on to smell good for the ladies because the ladies love the good smells and the relaxing tones and all the good vibes. Mesmer thus passed from being a confirmed advocate of magnetism to the role of a charlatan using every trick in the book to captivate the public. The biggest trick of all was to play on the repressed sexuality that bubbles under the surface of any group setting. In a group, a longing for social unity, a longing older than civilization, cries out to be awakened. This desire may be subsumed under a unifying cause, but beneath it is a repressed sexuality that the charlatan knows how to exploit and manipulate for his own purposes. This is the lesson that Mesmer teaches us. Our tendency to doubt, the distance that allows us to reason, is broken down when we join a group. The warmth and infectiousness of the group overwhelm the skeptical individual. This is the power you gain by creating a cult. Also, by playing on people's repressed sexuality, you lead them into mistaking their excited feelings for signs of your mystical strength. You gain untold power by working on people's unrealized desire for a kind of promiscuous and pagan unity. Oh my. That is that is something. Oh, Jiraiya. Yeah, you you caught not just a spicy broadcast, you caught literally longest broadcast in the history of fucking ever. But yeah, this one got spicy as hell. The Jiraiya on fire. So we're all here because we want an orgy? I mean, I'm not saying you're all here because you want an orgy. I'm just saying, what time should we schedule the orgy for? Uh, just hypothetically speaking, of course. I'll wait. That's fine. I got nothing but time. I'm just kidding. I do have nothing but time. However, if nobody knows what time the orgy starts, I don't have the schedule. So full moons are always popular. Yeah, for cult like uh, orgy uh, distributions. I just discovered that Colby Jack cheese is not delicious. You're wrong. You're wrong. Pepper Jack cheese is in fact more delicious than Colby Jack cheese, but Colby Jack cheese, when applied properly and correctly, is in fact delicious. However, I wouldn't recommend eating Colby Jack cheese uh, by itself plain. It's. I'm doing a Laws of Power stream. I'm not doing a cheese. We're not cooking here. Fuck, we're 3 hours in. Colby is less boring than it sounds. Monterey Jack is actually the Jack portion is the fucking boring part. All right, let's not get that twisted. It's the Jack portion that is fucking boring. Colby, while not being as like distinct as Pepper in the Jack equation, has got kind of a very good medium mild cheddar flavor to it. 48 kinds of cheese stream. Yeah, I could do a 56 kinds of cheese stream. I've been introduced to a lot of great cheeses, and I'm not far from Wisconsin. Anywho, you shits are all going to get me in a load of trouble with anyone trying to watch this in the replay crew because this is now becoming rapidly unreplayable just based on its pure length. The Midwest boys, you know it. The pending new national champions. We represent the M. That's that Michigan for all of y'all who don't know. Okay, back to it, shall we? Remember too that the most effective cults mix religion with science. Take the latest technological trend or fad and blend it with a noble cause, a mystical faith, a new form of healing. People's interpretations of your hybrid cult will run rampant, and they will attribute powers to you that you had never even thought to claim. Okay, y'all, does anybody, by a show of hands, have any interest in delving into the actual, like, what makes Scientology weirdos? I've looked for information on Scientology weirdos, and so far I've had what their core beliefs in their actual system actually is. It's very well restricted on the information of how that shit actually works. I would actually like love to look into like what makes Scientology people go crazy. I would also like to look into the Jews and Zionism. Not the Jews specifically, but specifically the concept of Zionism and why that invokes so much hate and disdain from the world. Because I think there's always more to the story than the story we get with all of these things. And I would love to just deep dive into a lot of these things. Like I know God, what was that guy's name that used to hang out with our crew? He did a cult stream, but he didn't actually talk about like major religions, things like Zionist Jews or uh, I can't remember his name right now, but the weird guy with the radio announcer voice. And I not sleazy was Shizzy. Shizzy did the cult streams, right? Shizzy was not. Thank you. Yeah, Shizzy. Yeah, Sleazy. I don't actually know Sleazy. I know Sleazy hung out with Jessica for a while. He seemed like a weirdo dude, but I don't know that he ever did any content that was notable. I think yeah, Shizzy did the cult streams. Although I don't think he delved into anything as big as like Zionism or sleazy streams are cool. What does he do? Does he like? I don't know. I only ever talked to the dude like once or twice. Uh, Zionism is the belief that God gave supremacy to the Zions. I thought Zionism was the belief that the Holy Land belonged to the Israelites. See, these are things I don't fucking know. And I can't argue with you about what Zionism is because I don't know. And I would love to do just like a probably on Rumble because apparently like uh talking about the Jews. Yeah, it's Goyim. Uh yeah, I I don't know. I really want to look into like why people hate Zionism so much and do they have a justification for it? I'm not comfortable with it either, Shy. That's why I'm looking into it. I don't actually hate anybody. I I don't understand why so much hate, and I would really rather like look into it than just be ignorant and be like, "Oh, people hate the Jews for this reason or that reason," based on some shit I heard on Twitter or some shit I seen on YouTube. I'd rather really dig into the history of why is this a thing. That's what I like to do. I like to uncover shit. I don't disagree with you, Matt. Like every group should believe that they're special. Every group should also understand that they're not the only special group and that the whatever it is that makes their group special doesn't actually make you better or worse than anyone else. It makes you different, and being different makes you special. However, like Mike Gohagan says, I'm not a fan of any supremacist. And that's exactly what I was just about to get to. Like, just because you're special and unique in your own group doesn't make your group better or worse than any other group, depending on what your group is. We can all be special. We can all be unique and different. But we can also, I mean, there are some values that are empirically for society's purposes better than others, as most people would largely agree. Like, living in a free capitalist society is largely more beneficial to most citizens than living in a monarchistic feudalist society. I think we can all mostly agree that's why we got rid of feudalism and monarchies. Anyway, I'm way off on a tangent right now. I did want to finish this tonight. I promise. This is rapidly becoming way more so than I expected. Image. The magnet. An unforeseen force draws objects to it, which in turn become magnetized themselves, drawing other pieces to them. The magnetic power of the whole constantly increasing. Is this true? Does anybody want to do this magnet experiment? I'm interested to see, like, if I take a magnet and I magnetize a whole bunch of like metallic shit, if that makes the force of the magnet more powerful going forward. I'm very curious to see the physics of this. Is it that simplified? Are we just talking about the wrong Holy Land? See, because people who believe in America first are also hated by a lot of people as well. And if it's just as simple as like, it's not really that simple. It is and it isn't. I do want to talk about it at one point, but I'm going to get off the topic of the magnet thing works for your drill bits. Like if you have more metal attached to the magnet, it makes the magnet more powerful. That's fucking cool. I really want to test that shit out. I'm going to figure out a way to actually demonstrate that just because it sounds fucking cool to do. Anyway, yeah, nationalism, America only. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite shows, and I am going to get off topic just a little bit here. One of my favorite shows on the internet, the TFM show. My man TFM has he's a nationalist Jew. He's not Israeli and he's not Zionist, but his opinion on the conflict in Israel is he does believe that Israel would do very well for America to butt its unreasonably fucking large nose out of their business and let Israel handle its own shit. And he's one of the only people I've ever fucking actually heard say, like, Israel's gonna be fine. They don't need America looking over their shoulder all the time, protecting them. And I'm like, this is literally a country surrounded by fucking enemies on all sides for hundreds of miles in every direction. I don't necessarily believe that he's right. However, historically, Israel has been managed to handle their shit as long as they've been a consecrated nation. I'm not talking about the biblical nation of Israel, which got pushed out, but I'm talking about since we reconstituted it. So it's all up and down inside my head. I don't agree with attacking other countries. I'm for staying the fuck out of it. I agree. And I do think that while America has its nose in Israel's business, we are undermining all of the interests in the region for our own interests. But there's a whole lot of other shit. Like, I didn't make this, I didn't do this stream to get into the whole Israel, Palestine, or Israel's existence discussion. I just thought it was relevant for this moment to acknowledge that Zionists kind of have a negative connotation to their existence in a cult-like aspect, and so do Scientologists. I don't necessarily believe there's anything nefarious in any of these groups. However, I do know the rhetoric that I hear. Anywho, but take away the original magnet and it all falls apart. Become the magnet, the invisible force that attracts people's imaginations and holds them together. Once they have clustered around you, no power can wrest them away. Authority. The charlatan achieves his great power by simply opening a possibility for men to believe what they already want to believe. The credulous cannot keep at a distance. They crowd around the wonder worker, entering his personal aura, surrendering themselves to illusion with a heavy solemnity like cattle. Grete de Francesco. Holy crap, y'all. We actually have made it at 3 hours in 11 minutes. We have hit the reversal. Hopefully, we've had enough discussion of what the three observances of the five-part law is. It's insane. Maddie points it out perfectly, and it's costing a shit ton. Are we still on the war? Yes. Oh, speaking of cyber defense and Israel and America, I don't know if anybody here saw this, but on Divinity's YouTube channel, I kind of gave Divinity a few pieces of a puzzle regarding the cyber defense of a lot of infrastructure between Israel and America, and a lot of the ways that could be exploited against us. And Div did an actual quite fantastic job of framing the cyber pandemic in a very specific manner that made it relevant to everybody why this is a concern that we should all be aware of. So if you haven't seen Div's video on her YouTube channel regarding cyber war, go check that shit out. Another thing that I absolutely do 100% recommend, because I would not have been able to make such a concise video. Do check that out. My childhood friend's dad got beaten up badly walking to the synagogue this week. I'm a bit sensitive at the moment. Oh, Shy. My thoughts and prayers are with you, as everybody's are. That the fact that this is happening, in my opinion, is abhorrent. The fact that this conflict has reached so many people who are innocently just trying to go about their lives is disgusting. There's I wish there was more I could do. I can only hold the position that I hold, which really would be for like a ceasing of all the violence. Thankfully, he's going to be okay, and the guy got arrested. Well, silver linings to dark clouds, be them as they be. Let them be a symbol of beauty in an otherwise awful moment. Anybody ready to reverse this law? Okay. Look what they did to Ahem fortify the 2020 election. And the Donard is way more popular now. Imagine what the regime would be willing to do in 2024. I'm going to be the first one to say, I'm going to be super surprised if Donald Trump is the candidate in 2024. Mostly because I'll be super surprised that he's still alive. They're getting very desperate. Anywho, I don't know why people take out aggression on people not in any way related to the conflict. Yes, that. Remember after 9/11, there was an Afghan family that had to move because their kids got bullied so bad. I mean, there were so many fucking cases of that, Jiraiya. And unfortunately, like for the one or two you got to see, the amount of cases, like I, I came from Detroit. I wasn't living in Detroit at 9/11. I had long since moved away. However, I had a lot of friends in Detroit, and I still spent quite a significant amount of time there with a lot of friends and family there. And I got to see like there's a lot of community of just innocent Muslim people who were I wouldn't say they were persecuted, but I would say that they were treated like second class citizens because of their ethnic background. When in reality, they had nothing to do with like hatred for America. They only came to embrace capitalism and freedom. Funny enough that. Let's pull the thing down, flip it, and reverse it. All right, let's get into it, y'all. The reversal. One reason to create a following is that a group is often easier to deceive than an individual and turns over to you that much more power. This comes, however, with a danger. If at any moment the group sees through you, you will find yourself not facing one deceived soul, but an angry mob that will tear you to pieces as avidly as it once followed you. Thus be the huge, huge fucking inverse of building a following on bullshit is the day will come when you've got something to lose. And just when you think you're done paying dues, uh, they all see through you, and then your end comes. The more followers you have, the more gruesome your end will be. I'm sure there is got to be an example in the reversal of a transgression of the law. A person is smart. People, though, are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it. Uh, Jiraiya, I used to rock a t-shirt when I was much younger, oddly enough. And the quote, it was one of those from like a Spencer's or Hot Topic. And it was one of those just like blatantly obvious quotes. And it said on it, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. And that still to this day resounds with me as just a general case of when I see a group of people gathering and none of them seem to realize what the fuck they're doing there, the first thing I do is avoid getting sucked in to whatever it is that's drawing the attention of a bunch of fucking people who don't know why they're there. Because that's how shit goes bad really fast. So I love that quote too, by the way. The charlatans constantly face this danger and were always ready to move out of town as it inevitably became clear that their elixirs did not work and their ideas were sham. Too slow, and they paid with their lives. In playing with the crowd, you are playing with fire and must constantly keep an eye out for any spark of doubt. Any enemies who will turn the crowd against you. This is why I generally try not to hang out in crowds. Oh shit, cheers. It's been a long time since I've done a triple cheers in a live stream. But no, this right here, the fact that like if a crowd turns against you, and I hate to say this, but this actually applies to both the righteous man of truth and the charlatan alike. If the fucking crowd turns against you, it doesn't fucking matter how much of a snake you are or how honest you are. If they don't believe you and they want your head, They have you outnumbered. This is why creating a cult-like following, something I generally trend against doing. Like, I don't want to appeal to all the people. I want to appeal to people who are reasonable enough not to be turned into an angry mob against me. That has backfired. There are people here who have seen it backfire. Just saying. It's the delusion of democracy. Do you really want to be ruled by the average person around you? Fuck no. Absolutely not. But is the average person willing to go ahead and give up their control to the people who have a vested interest in that which is best for everyone, knowing full well that the person who does have the vested interest is going to end up gaining the most benefit out of the thing? Because you're not going to find a system of governance and rulers that are benevolent across the board. That's fucking impossible. Everyone is self interested. Anywho, moving on. For this reason, you may. Oh, wait, hold on. We're constantly playing with fire. You must constantly keep an eye out for any sparks of doubt, any enemies that will turn the crowd against you. When you play with the emotions of a crowd, you have to know how to adapt, attuning yourself instantaneously to all of the moods and desires that a group will produce. Use spies. Be on top of everything and keep your bags packed. I mean, if you're going to play these games, keep uh, yeah, what Darth means is he has a Chanel bag and not a Coach. I mean, what Darth means is he has a first class ticket and not a Coach, and it's definitely to get the fuck out of town the moment the crowd tries to turn on old Darth. Ever seen the Oxbow incident movie from the 40s? Three men get hanged for a murder, then it turns out the guy's own son shot him but he survived. I mean, how many real life cases? I mean, I was just watching a case not that long ago about a guy who almost got strung up for. I'm not gonna like get too deep into it because I don't know too much about it. But if anybody knows about Matthew with funny letters at the end of his name, not our Matthew, but Matthew Moore, a guy who was like prosecuted in Ohio for murdering his wife or fiance or something, girlfriend. Turns out she did herself in, but they really wanted to hang him up, and they really were getting the mob up against him. He was not convicted, so that worked out good for him. But it's an interesting case and fascinating how they tried to stoke the power of the mob to just crucify this guy. Derek Chauvin, though, however, if I'm gonna like give a good example of a case where a mob was turned against a person, Derek Chauvin seems like a really good case. The George Floyd thing. I mean, if you want to talk about turning a mob against somebody, we can look at Kyle Rittenhouse, who actually did end up going free in the long run, but man, that mob really wanted to fucking string him up. Self delete. Say self delete to not get the axe. I don't fucking care. Like, I'm gonna do my words the way I do them. If the day YouTube comes for me, they come for me because I used offensive words and I was giving a clear, truthful message, I'll just pick everything back up over on Rumble. And that being said, if you're not subscribed to my Rumble account at Darth Hideous or rumble.com/user/Darth Hideous, just type in Darth Hideous on Rumble and look for this little black and red icon that I take with me everywhere the fuck I go. Because there may come a day where YouTube's just like, yeah, we've heard enough of your shit. And they might just like find 6, 7, 8 strikes all at once. They're not too difficult to find if you go looking for them based on your ambiguous terms of service. I may just end up popping up over exclusively on Rumble. Thank you for looking out, Heidi. I appreciate you trying to protect me, but I'm not good enough at self-censoring myself to continuously do it. YouTube, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. For this reason, you may often prefer to deal with people one by one, or in smaller groups, as I would like to put it. Isolating them from their normal milieu can have the same effect as putting them in a group. It makes them more prone to suggestion and intimidation. It also makes them more easier to communicate with and reason with and give the truth to. Choose the right sucker, and if he eventually sees through you, he may prove easier to escape than a crowd. So that's the absolute reversal. Holy shit, we have actually made it. This has been Law 27 of the 48 Laws of Power. I knew this one was going to go on. Thank you all for talking to me enough. Like, it probably would not have been 3.5 hours long, but I got to talk to every single one of you, and y'all made it actually like a pleasure to get through this grinder. For the 8 of you still with me, I mean, super kudos to y'all. Y'all the realest ones. Next, Friday morning, y'all. Next law up on the docket. Law 28, enter action with boldness. I think I might just take Jujubee's advice going forward for the rest of the laws. Like, I read this book probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I have a familiarity with a lot of the laws in here, but I don't remember, like, just the nature of them. But I think Juju actually had a point going forward to not look into just like how deep and long they're gonna run. Oh, Melissa Jane. See, if I hadn't been here 3 hours and 30 minutes into the stream, Melissa Jane would not have been able to stop by and say hi, uh, be a part of the following. So I'm glad y'all actually got to sit with me while I gave commentary on like cult like followings, why I think they're bullshit, why I think they're great, why you should and should not have them. Like, this is probably one of the most fun laws I've been able to talk about since the very first laws. And it's because of the people that were here that made it absolutely fucking the best. Sorry that you missed literally all of the stuff, Melissa. I promise you, it was only completely useful. Like, probably the most useful law I've covered yet. So, if you want to watch it back, it's going to be up. If you care to comment about it, the comment section is open. If you are coming to this video after we close the stream in the replay gang, put your comments in the comment section below. I'm sure there's plenty everyone has to say. about cults and cult-like presences. We all have our people that we're huge fans of. It does speak volumes about the divide we have in America because a lot of what is causing the divide is people secting themselves off into their own little identitarian cults. And intersectionality is based in identitarianism. It's a whole problem. I could go on for another 3 hours about how identity politics has divided us into so many cults, but I would rather just get off YouTube, go join Divinity's cult. It's an orgy cult. I'm not saying that I I forgot punctuation here, y'all. I this is out of context. Go follow Divinity on Rumble. Divinity, could you please drop your Rumble link? If not, I will because at this point I have the ability now to go ahead and pull up. Maybe I don't actually. My browser is just lagging so bad. And I don't have it like on speed dial. Could you put your link up so we could follow your cult, please? Yeah, yeah. Party at Div's house tomorrow. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. 1 second for the crew. What are we doing at your cult party tomorrow? Killing people? We're killing people, right? Hold on, what the? Hold on, don't tell me you did this shit to me again. Oh my fucking god. Okay, please tell me you just moved. Hold on, my list of Rumble accounts is actually all fucked up. There you are. Ah, you changed your icon, so I didn't recognize you. Okie dokie. My bad, y'all. I didn't realize the pretty one changed her icon. Yeah, there we go. This one right here. If you could just like go ahead and go join Divinity tomorrow on her stream on Rumble. She's gonna have a lot of fun taking us all on the Oregon and Amazon trails. I will say the last time she brought us on the Oregon Trail, I declared before she ever started that she was gonna kill us all. I had no idea at the time that she was gonna make me one of the party members. I was just like, ha ha, you're all gonna die. And then, lo and behold, I got put in the wagon, and I'm just like, wait, no, 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 no. You do not take me with you. You are all going to die. Lo and behold, they took me. I died. Lucky for me, Div did not die. So this time, her and Paul and Nova are going to get in the fucking wagon. And I think she's going to bring her sister, who is actually super cool, inappropriately said. And they're not going to put me in the fucking wagon, hopefully. And they're not going to die, also, hopefully. So go, yeah, go. Here we go, Castro. Uh, I don't visit Divinity often. I need to work on that. Yeah, Div streams are fun as fuck. Hopefully, Rumble won't be down as fuck like it has been the last couple of morning streams. And it'll be like most Rumble night times, and it'll be cool and and relaxed, and the stream won't be dead. But let's all cross our fingers. Anywho, uh, enter action with boldness is the next law. I'm gonna be doing that at noon on Friday, y'all. I'm gonna do that here so I don't have to worry about the instability and attacks that Rumble has been having. I don't think I'm gonna have any weekend streams coming up this weekend. But yeah, I'll see y'all Friday for Law 26, and I will see you tomorrow for the Oregon Amazon Trail. I hope to see all of y'all in both places, but if not, I hope to see at least some of you in both spots. Thanks for coming, y'all. Thanks for keeping me company through Law 27, the longest law ever, which was made even longer based on great audience interaction and a cult-like discussion. I will catch y'all on Friday at the latest, hopefully. And may you avoid being sucked into any bullshit cults, and may you run with the best crews so that you don't get caught up in anyone's cultish bullshit. Good night, friends. You're welcome. Thank you all. I mean, Hideous out.